told a group of us once that the animating concerns that brought you into public life were defense and preservation of the nation of Israel and the sanctity of human life. And you drew an interesting analogy in speaking about human life with respect to the dehumanization of people in the slavery question and correlating that with the sanctity of human life. Could you unpack that a little bit for us?
Sure. Well, if you go back to the 1840s and 1850s, the debate over slavery, of course, was becoming more and more animated and violent, quite frankly. In the middle of all that, a big legal dispute broke out. A runaway slave named Dred Scott escaped from his owner, quote unquote, his owner. Even the words are offensive to say. And he was captured, and the legal dispute was about whether he should be returned to his owner or not. And that legal dispute, when it went to the Supreme Court, all depended on what Dred Scott was, according to the court. If Dred Scott was a mere piece of property, then he would be returned to his owner, because that's what you do with property that's been lost or misplaced or whatever. But if he was a human being, well, then he would be protected under the second paragraph of our Declaration of Independence, where it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator, God, with certain unalienable rights, among these right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Well, unbelievably, the Supreme Court of the United States said that Dred Scott was property, not a man, for purposes of our Constitution. Now, when I used to learn about that chapter in our history, one of the things that came to my mind was that certainly after making such a horrendous decision in the past, that no future Supreme Court would ever do anything like that again, where a whole group of people were taken to be outside of the confines of the promises of the American founding. But lo and behold, the court did it again in 1973 in Roe versus Wade. When you think about that abortion decision, what was before the court was the question of what is the legal status of an unborn child? Is it just a thing, a piece of property that has no rights other than what someone else is willing to grant it? Or is that unborn child a human being? If it's a human being, well, then it's been made in the image of God, and according to the clear words of our founding, it's protected by the law. The court, sadly, decided that it had no legal consequence whatsoever. It was the equivalent of a styrofoam cup to be disposed of at whim.
Certainly science has moved against the arguments in Roe. The advancement of neonatology and understanding of when life begins, and scientists can still point to no other place to the beginning of any life, let alone human life, than the point of conception. Science has moved our way, but that hasn't stopped the anti-life activists, has it?
No, it hasn't. You probably have noticed that Christians and conservatives are often accused of being anti-science. Yes. But then I hear progressives, quote unquote, learned men and women. In fact, our former president, President Obama, was famously asked in a forum, when did life begin? And he responded, well, that's above my pay grade. And I thought at the time, well, my goodness, somebody buy the man a 5th grade biology textbook. I mean, life begins at conception, and that the President of the United States didn't seem to understand that was fairly amazing and disappointing. Now look, science gets manipulated in the political arena for various purposes. No one can argue that there's a mystery about when life begins. As we've seen over and over again, it's absolutely clear. In fact, at that moment of conception, everything about that new human being has already been determined by the genetic combination that has been made there. And we see that with the miracle of every birth. I think the best thing we have going for us is that we do have sonograms. People have seen the child develop in the womb, and we see medical doctors and surgeons actually operate on babies in the womb. We know there's 2 heartbeats, not 1. And we also know in the broader picture that every abortion has 2 victims, the child that's been destroyed and the woman who has suffered a grievous injury, even if at the time she believes it's something that she wanted. So America will never be, in my view, fully a shining city on a hill, which is what the founders wanted, as long as this injustice of abortion of demand on demand is allowed to continue.